I lost almost $100,000 that I never had financial issues prior to that. I'm now calling friends, calling family, like, hey, I'm struggling, you know, and there were so many people that I was there for when they were struggling. It was never an issue for me, right? Because I was always pretty responsible with my finances. So when I lost a lot of this money, I was depressed. I lost. I didn't just lose the money, I lost myself.
Thinking about where you were last year, what's the review Mike would write about himself? Welcome to another episode of the Disciplined Man podcast, where we talk about discipline, mindset, and the profound impact they have on manhood. We know manhood doesn't look the same for everyone, and real strength lies in authenticity and personal truth. So join us for another enriching conversation about how real men think, how we feel, and how we navigate the complexities of modern masculinity. Now, if you're a man struggling to understand where you are in life, you're facing challenges, and you really can't figure out the steps that you need to take, today's conversation just might be for you, because the entire premise of this conversation is for you to be able to do mental, spiritual, and physical personal development. So today's guest, we actually have a former member of our U.S. Navy, where he served over 9 years, an entrepreneur, the founder of Fit Factor X, where his entire goal is to help men improve themselves through fitness. Today's conversation is with, appropriately enough, Mr. Mike Strong. Mike, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you for having me here.
No doubt, bro. So I've seen a lot of things that you've been doing, even just from a fitness standpoint, and then just to give the people a little bit more background. The reason I knew this conversation was important because we had a previous conversation. I'm thinking to myself, oh no, I got to get this dude on my podcast.
Yeah.
And so kind of taking a step back really quick, one of the things that you mentioned there was just, we talked a lot about mental health for sure.
Yeah.
And there's this quote, that I guess it's a quote, article, whatever it was, and it talked about the importance of exercise and mental health. And obviously the work that you do is to help people show up as the best versions of themselves. So walk me through why that's important to you.
So I think physical health and mental health go hand in hand. You know, a lot of times people talk about how trauma is stored in the body, and just how we process things, right? Normally you're depressed, and when you're depressed, you're still, right? You're sitting still, you're laying still, you're not getting out of bed, and when you start moving your body, things start moving for you, right? Everything starts happening a little bit better. Opportunities arise. Everything just moves a little better. So for most people, they don't realize that that's a very important part of life, right? Movement is extremely important part of life. My mom, she said one time, once you stop moving, you die. And I see it. You see it, a lot of sedentary people, they waste away, So for me, it's really giving people an opportunity to know what to do. Right, a lot of people, they don't know what to do, So for me, it was important for me because I was like tying all things together, just giving people the idea of what they need to do. A lot of times, like I said, people don't know what to do. That's the reason why I started doing what I was doing and doing what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
And it's just to give people opportunity to know.
So again, as I mentioned, you served in the United States Navy. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
For over 9 years, and throughout that process, you were doing even a lot of training then.
I was.
And that's the next level of discipline and full transparency. So help me understand what that journey was for you.
Wow. Man, 9 years. I worked on a submarine. For me, it was about being open-minded, right? So working on a confined ship, you get the opportunity. They tell you, okay, you could do this or work on a sub. You instantly think like, damn, a submarine. I don't think I want to do all that, But literally, I said to myself the day that the opportunity came up, I said, if they did it, I could do it. I'm not gonna die. They're not gonna, if they survived, I'll be just fine. So for me, once that opportunity arose, I said, you know what, I'll just go for it. Keep my mind open. Don't get too caught up in what other people tell you about what the life is, because it ended up not being that. You know what I mean? So I hear all kind of things. Oh, you're gonna be cramped. You're gonna be a lot of different things people say, but the reality is that it's what you make it. So once you keep your mind open, it becomes a lot easier. So then to tie in the fitness with that, I got a chance to work with a lot of people, a lot of leaders, even as a junior sailor, right? So even as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, I got a chance to work with the captain, the admiral, excuse me, the captain, admiral, chiefs, people of all ages, because I realized they needed me no matter how old I was, right? They needed somebody to lead them in fitness. And so for me, it was a good way for me to have secondary, it was like a secondary job. So I was doing my job on the ship, and then we get out, and I was leading workouts. Yep. And for me, like I said, so many people from all different age groups, they needed me. And that's kind of what opened my eyes to want to continue to do fitness as I got out. So yeah, that was it. That was my story about it.
How do you manage that type of responsibility as a 21-year-old? Because, I mean, the reality is, I think back to a time when I told somebody that I was a speaker. So I'm sitting out one day at dinner, and I'm 23 at the time. Yeah. And I'm having a conversation with this older guy, just doing some networking, talking to people like I typically do. And I told him what I did, because I was speaking, I was traveling all over the place. And I was like, yeah, I'm a speaker, and I just did this event with Eric Thomas, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So he goes, what can a 23-year-old teach me? Yeah. And the challenge that presented to me over time, I started to think about that a lot more. But there's so much that goes into our story that other people don't even necessarily get to see. Yeah. So what was it like being a 21-year-old with that type of responsibility, and how did you handle it?
You know what? I'll say that it's one of the few things that did not give me imposter syndrome. I think from the very beginning, it's a matter of when you're, maybe the very beginning, before the workout even begins, you can start feeling a little intimidated by the process because, you don't know what this person knows. And a lot of times ego gets involved with fitness. So that could be a problem. But overall, once you start seeing the effects of what you're doing, and you almost become more and more vulnerable as you work out, right? You become more and more tired, become more and more, you no longer have that brouhaha. You less of, now you're tired and you're panting, and so for me, it really wasn't an issue. And luckily that was one of the few things that never gave me imposter syndrome, is being able to do that, because of the fact that I knew my standard. I knew that there was nothing that I couldn't do that they couldn't do. And there was no, I wasn't leading. I was always leading by example. So there was never a part where if I said, let's go run 1.5 miles, that I couldn't go run 1.5 miles in boots. You know what I mean? I was always capable. So for me, it was just knowing that I was always capable. And then there's also a background with that. I've been running track since I was 6. So I was always coached. There was always time in high school. There was times where we lost our coaches, and I had to lead the team, and it's just little things like that. And I was always, placed as team captain. I was always put in a level of responsibility when it came to fitness. So for me, it just didn't it didn't present many issues. But I do understand the concept. I do understand why some people may have issues with, I'm talking about something new. You say I'm a speaker. People might look at you, say well, how are you a speaker at 23? There's no way you have that kind of experience, right? But then when you are speaking, you remember you're speaking to the crowd, and you're talking to people that are looking at you, and all it takes is one person, right? Yep. Right now, there's an imbalance. You're comfortable, I'm not. So the idea is that you have experience, and those are the kind of things that help you get through it, right? The same way of fitness. If I'm training you, you're tired, I'm not.
Right, for sure. It's funny because you saying that just reminded me. I saw this video. I'm sure you're familiar with David Goggins.
Yeah, for sure.
Crazy. But he was training with Damian Lillard.
I did see that, yeah.
And so in that conversation, he goes, well, Damian's in my domain right now. Right. But if I go over to the basketball court, I'm in his domain. Right. I'm probably looking like he looks right now. Right. So it's essentially the same thing.
Right. So he gives you that position of power in a way, And so you don't want to consider it power, but it gives you a position where you feel, as long as you're very comfortable in what you know in your skin, then it should just become, like second nature. But yeah, I get it though, man. It could be tough, especially, I mean, shoot, in business, that's one of the things. Absolutely. We could lead into that, but business is, no matter what, fitness is one thing, but the business of is what I struggled with, right? Without having the proper leadership, with it being so new to me, excuse me. that was one of the few things that caused me to maybe have a little bit of imposter syndrome. And that was one of the few things that, threw me off of my saddle a little bit in terms of feeling confident in what I knew. So,
and taking a step back really quick, you mentioned track. I know you won Track Athlete of the Year back in that time. So how important was that moment for you?
It's funny. I actually shared that award with my boy Kevin, and it was important, but I was always so wrapped up in the process. Yeah. Like, it was always just about going to that, spending the week practicing, going to the meet on Friday or Saturday, and just performing, right? Yeah. So I didn't really expect to win the award. I knew I had the credentials to win it. I knew that I was slated to win. I knew that there was no way I wasn't going to win.
Fair enough.
Like, there was no way I wasn't going to win, but the idea wasn't for me to win it. And, and that goes for any award that I've won. I've actually won plenty of other awards at the same time. And so, I never looked for the prize. Since I was a kid, I just never was the type to fight for awards. I was always just the type to make sure that I was the best every week. And so, it was a fun season for me, man, because it just proved to myself that I was definitely capable, and I was, training for the right reasons. So
I'm him.
I'm the most humble him you'll ever meet, but I'm him.
That's funny. So, a lot of times people will ask questions about, like, kind of how you show up every day. And so the reason why I believe discipline is important, because discipline actually allows you to build systems around yourself where you show up every day regardless of how you feel. Yeah. And there's all these moments, even like this morning, where I actually got up to run like 2 miles, which is not a crazy thing to do, but it's just part of the process. And so we build systems around ourselves to just show up despite how we feel. Yeah. And a lot of people talk about being built different, but you actually are built different. So
I mean, maybe not. At the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, I may be, but I may not be at the same time. I feel like it's about managing emotions. Yep. Feelings and emotions are the same things, right? When I'm alone, or when you're alone, or whoever, those things they arise, right? And sometimes we can't handle those. For sure. Right? And so I have days where I don't want to get out of bed. Or I have days where I don't want to do anything, where I don't want to talk to anybody. It happens. You know what I mean? But sometimes, like you said, discipline, right? Discipline. The job is to get done. Like, the job is to get the job done. Right. Right? So, but at the same time, we get caught up in having the idea that we're not allowed to have emotions, and that we're not allowed to have feelings, and that we're not allowed to be able to express. And I think that's where the disconnect comes between reality and society, right? Because the reality is that we have feelings. Right. The reality is that we have emotions. The reality is that we can't operate without those things. But society tells you, no matter what, the sun is up, you gotta get up too. Yep. You got stuff to do, you got bills to pay. No matter what, you have to get it done. So at the end of the day, I'm no different than anyone else. I still got a lot to achieve, a whole lot to achieve. For sure. And it's a mental game. It's a mental game, especially when, support systems are not as strong as, maybe you expect it to be, or as much as you want them to be. So you got to fight for yourself. You really got to develop yourself. And I think that's part of the game that a lot of people skip, is that personal development, to be able to be different, because that's what separates the men from the boys, or, the champions from everyone else, So it's a mental game that most of us have to continue to play and just fight for. So, I'm no different. I just think that maybe I've done a little bit more of the work. And then some of the other people that you see, maybe that's successful, they've a lot of those success stories come with them dark times. Yep. So for sure, it's very common.
For sure. And speaking of like commonalities, just even thinking back to stories that I've heard, and even just my personal story, there's so many things that I've experienced that a lot of people are like, bro, I don't know how you got through that. I'm like, the reality is it was necessary. I had to get through it in order for me to be here today. and they're like, well, how are you still surviving? How are you doing this and how are you doing that? But the truth of the matter is I just didn't quit. Yeah. There's a Nipsey Hussle interview that I constantly reference. I believe I referenced it on here several times at this point, where he talks about the difference in between me and most people who want to do what I want to do is I just didn't quit. I went through every emotion that you can think of. Yeah. And I'm willing to admit it. And I'll tell people, bro, I'm willing to go through those emotions and I'll still get in the gym and lift. And I'll still get up and show up. And like you just said, I will still show up and fight for myself. Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who says, hey, Mike, I'm struggling right now. How can I pull myself out of this? What would you say to that person?
I'm struggling right now. How can I pull myself out of this? Gain clarity. Understand where it is that you want to go, right? Not majority of mental health problems stem from confusion, right? So if you're depressed, usually it's because you're sad because you don't know exactly what you want to do next. Yep. You know, your angst is because you don't know what's coming. Like, you got to gain clarity. You have to figure out what it is that you want to do, what it is that you know, it may just be in the next hour, right? But start with a small step, right? Start with something that you want to start and finish, right? So having something to finish, accomplishing a goal is probably the first step I would tell somebody if they, you know, they're struggling right now. Just start off small. Yeah. Start off very small. Just start off, you know, making your bed. It could be as simple as that. You know, just get up, make your bed, and don't go back in it. Yep. Right? And that's a goal. Because a lot of times, like I said, you got people that they're struggling. That bed is their number one comfort zone. That's their place, you know, and they get back in it. If they can't get back in it, they're thinking about it. You know, they may be at work all day thinking like, damn, I just want to go back to bed, you know? So make the bed, let the bed get neat and stay out of it, right? And then find something to do in terms of creating a goal for yourself. And I think that's just that's a very, very microcosm thing to do to get yourself going. But that's something I would say. Just find a goal and knock it out.
Yeah. So what are let's say one or two things that you do every single day that allows you to show up? Because I mean, I know for me, and as we just talked about, every day I don't want to get up to work out, but I just force myself to do it because that's just part of my process. So what are maybe one or two things that you actually do that helps Mike every day?
Well, exactly what I just started off with, making sure I get up and make the bed. Yep. You know, that's one of the very first things I love to do is just make sure that the bed is made. The house is fairly neat. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have OCD. Well, I kind of have OCD. Like, I ain't gonna hold you, but the idea is just to make sure that, you know, the house is neat, everything is straightened away. And I mean, you know, one of the most powerful things that I've been able to do in the last year is meditate. You know, I read a book. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and reading that book, it really helped me. It really helped me to really get through a lot of trauma. Yep. Right, a lot of trauma that was holding me back in ways that I didn't realize was holding me back. You know, and I think a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, you have somebody that's systemically dealing with like chronic depression or problems. It's due to trauma. Absolutely. Right? They're thinking about something from the past, and they don't even know they're thinking about it. They don't even know what's on their mind. So for me, I've learned how to practice through guided meditation. That's something that I do pretty much every single day. You know, I'll throw on a video on YouTube and just lock in, close my eyes, and what it does is when you close your eyes, you're no longer stimulated, right? So you're not stimulated by the lights. You're not stimulated by, the only thing you're thinking about is what's in your subconscious. Yep. So your subconscious comes up. 9 times out of 10, if you haven't done the work, it's going to come up with negative, you know, it's going to come up negatively, right? Absolutely. So it's going to come up with things that are negative, like things that you don't even realize, like something that happened in maybe middle school or something that happened when you were 7, something that happened whenever. But it's something that's going to pop up in your mind, and you don't even know that's in that mind. So what you want to do is you want to reframe it, right? So for me, I meditate every day, find something new that pops up, maybe something that pops up when I was in the military or
Right.
something that pops up when I was a kid. It doesn't matter. And then I'll take it and reframe it.
Yep.
Right. And okay, that wasn't my fault. You know, they was probably having a bad day. Oh, you know what? She got a lot of trauma herself. So that's the reason why she said that. Like things of that, you know, just continuously doing that. So for me, like I said, knocking out a task, knocking out a list of things, going over my checklist. There's something else that I do weekly, right? So every week I'm writing every day as much as I can. And whatever's on my mind, I write it down. And I put a box next to it. Whatever needs to get done. Clean the dishes. I don't matter. I'll write it down. And then I'll look back at it in a week and be like, okay, that was done. That got done. That got done. That got done. And you don't even realize it got done. But again, you're adding things to your subconscious that are good for you, that's good steps for your future, you know? And so those are the few things I like to do. It's really just checklist and meditation.
Bro, I'm going to tell you something. I remember, so just taking a step back really quick. Joe Dispenza is somebody who really changed the game for me. So there's Joe Dispenza and Eckhart Tolle. So Eckhart Tolle is the author of Power of Now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
I haven't, but we'll get into this.
Yeah. So he has the Power of Now and New Earth. So between those two guys, and then there's obviously other ones because I use for different things, but taking a step back, that's also another reason why I meditate every day.
Yeah.
Because there was a point a couple years ago where I'm just trying to figure all of this out. So I lost a couple of brothers, and not to take it in that direction.
Yeah, no, I saw that, but I keep going. But I did want to, you know, kind of touch on that a little bit because I think that's a very important topic.
Yeah, so I lost a couple of brothers, and for those who haven't heard this part of my story, so I lost a couple of brothers to suicide, and through that process, I found myself also being challenged. And I knew that there was going to be a different level of my experience that I had to learn how to navigate. And there's times where I just sit and be stuck. Yeah. Like to your point, when you talk about depression, you talk about anxiety, you have to pull yourself out of certain situations by actually being able to understand what's happening and being willing to sit in that experience, express those emotions, go through those emotions in order to understand what it looks like, what it feels like. But you also have to know there's going to be action required of you on the other side of that. And action for me, part of the action for me was actually waking up every day and doing 30 to 45 minutes of meditation, which I still do today, which I still journal. I'm still doing all of these things. So everything that you said very much resonates because those are the things that help me pull myself out of those circumstances. And the reality is with grief, it's not something that you just say, okay, I'm over it today. No, there's still all these moments where things come up and you still have all these experiences.
Those memories still exist.
But to your point, it's the reframing and going through that process. But I know for me, like those were part of my experiences. So what was it for you that caused you to feel like that was necessary?
Yeah, good question. So July 2023 is when, you know, my life pretty much changed in ways that I wasn't expecting. It wasn't a death, and I'm sorry to hear about your brothers. I think that's, you know, I'd be devastated. Yep. It's definitely a tough loss. For me, I lost a lot of money, right? I got pretty much, I won't call it a scam, but I lost a lot of money at a time where I was busy developing my business. I lost a lot of money in marketing at a time. You know, it was just a lot happening at one time where pretty much money out and no money in. Yeah. Right. I lost almost $100,000 that I never had financial issues prior to that. Right. Wow. And so I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. I knew I had to work. I knew I had to, you know, figure it out. But it sucks, right? When you have certain levels of income coming in, and you expect someone to do a job, you pay somebody to do a job, and then you turn around and you get nothing out of it. Yep. For me, it was my biggest setback in my life. You know, because things just started piling up. I stacked up my life so bad. Well, not bad, but I stacked up my life so that my bills were covered, you know, my rent was paid, everything was good, and then things just stopped. And like I said, it threw me into a spiral, right? Because I'm now calling friends, calling family, like, hey, I'm struggling, you know. And there were so many people that I was there for when they were struggling, you know. They called me, Mike, can I borrow $2,000? Can I borrow, you know? it was never an issue for me, right? Because I was always pretty responsible with my finances. So when I lost a lot of this money, I was depressed.
Yeah.
I didn't just lose the money, I lost myself, you know, and I really lost myself and just not feeling like who I am. Like I didn't, you know, but I needed this, right?
Yeah.
I needed this wake up call because there was a part of me that I was still missing. There was still like, you know, I'm not as whole as I think I am. I think I was just surviving with my ego. And there was a part of my soul that was still missing that I had to really discover within this last year. Yeah. And so, again, I started looking for different ways to cope, how to get out of bed, how to figure this out. Started meditating. Meditation, that was the reason why I started meditating so much, was because I had to reorganize my brain, reorganize my thoughts, reorganize my trauma. You know, like I said, I think trauma is like like if you have a stool with 4 legs, if you have a lot of trauma, those stools are going to be kind of weak. So it's going to be hard for you to stand on top and be who you are proudly, because maybe your trauma, it has you held back in shame. So you're afraid to be, you know, who you are because of this trauma. Yeah. You know, because you're afraid of ridicule. You're afraid of somebody that was making fun of you as a child that still exists in your brain. They don't exist in your world. They may just exist in your head. Yep. You know? So for me, I had a lot of trauma that didn't allow me to really stand on not being perfect, right? So only way that I felt valuable was because of what I had. Whether it's the money, whether it's you know, good credit. Obviously, I'm not running around with my credit score on my forehead. Like, right. You know, but it was the tools that it provided me. You know, and I never needed nothing from anybody. I was always the one that was able to provide for others and help others out when they needed. And so, like I said, that rocked my world in a way that, and I'm, you know, I'm not gonna say I'm still coming out of it, but I'm definitely still coming out of it. And that's okay. I feel like I've built a stronger human out of that. You know, and beyond the fitness, I think it's developed my mental health in a way that God, I mean, I don't feel untouchable, but I feel like finally I feel a little bit more at peace with my mind, you know, with who I am, with, you know, how I present. And you know, so that was the main thing, was really a financial setback, and that just threw me into a whirlwind, like I said. And so many people, they struggle with finances. Right. They don't know how to either manage it, or, you know, they don't know how to get out of a setback, you know. And so, like I said, I've had it all, I've lost it all, and now I'm trying to get it back, but I know how to keep it this time. Yeah. You know, and so, that was really the issue, is a financial setback. And you know, I can't be upset though. I've done some things that people could only wish to see or do, or so. You know, the goal is, like I said, is get my mind back together, rediscover who I am as a person, rediscover my morals, my values, and how I stand on my own too, and just continue to move forward. And I think the blessings will continue to happen, and I'll be okay. But that was my setback, and you know, I'm ready to rewrite the story.
Hey man, I think you're already doing it. Yeah. You're already doing it every single day with the work that you're doing for other people and for yourself. Yeah. I think there's so much value in doing all of that, and then just showing up as you are. There's a couple of things that you mentioned in there. You talked about losing yourself, you talked about peace, and you talked about just rediscovering who you are. Can you help me understand like some of those details? What does all of that mean to you? What does it mean to lose yourself? What does it mean? And I hate like double and triple questions. No. But what does it mean to lose yourself? What it means for you right now to find peace? Help me understand all of that.
Yeah. So what it means to me to lose yourself is really just the idea of that identity of having peace of mind financially, right? And so you're not really too focused on your mental health, because you just you're okay. Like society tells you you're okay if you have money. Yep. So your mind is not. You don't have a certain. You don't manage your mind in a certain way because of the fact that you're able to move through the world so peacefully. So that means potentially you're getting angry. You're getting a little bit more emotional at times, right? You're allowing your emotions to control you a little bit more than you expect. And so losing myself, I think I allowed my emotions to take me down. You know, if I'm sad, I'm really sad, and I have no control over my mind because I didn't manage it well, right? I never knew how to manage my emotions. I was always dysregulated because of, you know, various reasons, whether it's family, whatever it may be, or just never doing the work. That dysregulation, it shows up when, again, one of the stools are broken, right? That emotion that you have, you may get angry a little quicker. You know what I mean? You may get, again, sad, and you get sad, you stay sad.
Yep.
You know, you become depressed. You get excited, you're a little too excited. You're not, you know, you don't know how to manage that emotion. And so, again, I think that's where I say when I lost myself, I lost my control of my emotions. I lost my what's the word I'm looking for? I lost the ability to just manage yourself.
Yep.
You know, I was stuck. I was just like everybody else who's, you know, and I just knew that to get out in the world, society they don't give a fuck about your emotions.
They don't.
You gotta get out there and you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep.
You know, and so it's like being a professional. You know, you could have it all, you could be angry, but you still gotta show up at the workplace with your best face forward, you know? And so when you're struggling to do that, it takes down your whole thing. It takes down your whole business.
Right.
For me, it took down my whole, well, it didn't take down my business, but it put a little pause on the direction that I wanted to go, you know? And so I knew that there were so many other people that were having those same issues. And you know what helped me out, really what helped me to rediscover things was really just finding, not even finding, but seeing that mirror, all right? Walking around, meeting people, or not just meeting people, meet people that I know, and then, you know, I'm like, damn, I'm having these issues, and then you start talking to them, and you're like, oh, damn, like,
for sure,
you think
for sure.
I got it bad, like, oh, okay,
yep,
okay, I'm not, okay, like, I can go back home thinking like, oh shit, I'm not even doing that bad,
yep,
you know, no matter what I've lost, I'm not even doing that bad, you know, and it was just that was one of the main things that helped. Like, it was like a staircase, you know. I was at the bottom of the staircase, July 2023, and then every time I met someone new or somebody that I would run into, I would see a different, you know, this person dealing with a ton of ADHD, or this person dealing with this person's depressed, this person anxiety. I'm like, well, I'm thinking I have these issues, but in reality, I'm okay. Like,
for sure,
you know. And again, it's just, you see these little mirrors of the holes in your, you know, in your mental, or who you are sometimes. And as long as you have control, you know, you see it and you think to yourself, okay, I'm okay. I have good control over my faculties,
right?
To the point where it's like I thought I was doing bad, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna continue to be okay. And every time there's always something small I see in other people, I'm just like, and I don't walk around like eyeballing anybody thinking like I'm better than. It's just like I said, you see it, right? Like when, you know, and you don't be, it's not in everybody. It's not in everybody that you meet. But then when you do see it, it makes you just say to yourself like, okay, phew.
It ain't me.
Like, I'm gonna be okay. Like, I'm gonna be just fine.
Yeah. There's this James Baldwin quote that I read during the journey that I just explained to you a second ago. He said, to summarize it, and this is also another thing that I say on here a lot. He said, I thought my experiences were unique until I decided to read. Yeah. And essentially it was his version of saying there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. And when you talk about creativity or you talk about trauma, there's really nothing new under the sun. We just feel like our world is imploding, so nobody else can be going through this. But the reality is there's so many people who have already been through what you're going through, and you have to, like, obviously, like you said, meet people and go through certain experiences to connect with those people in order to understand, okay, maybe I'm not doing as bad. Maybe I'm not in a situation that's not where I can't come out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I just have to spend the time in order to do it.
Yeah.
And I think once you make a decision like that, it allows you to continue to show up. It allows you to put things in place for yourself to really not only come out of it, but come out better.
Yeah.
Because again, there's the other quote: "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
I agree.
Your last name is already strong.
100%.
How does your experience from last year? How has that made you stronger?
Oh man, to your quickly to your point about everything under the sun. Nothing's new under the sun. One of the few things I did also was I read a lot of books from like the 1920s.
Yeah.
Right. I just found myself digging into things from like the early 1900s to 18, as long as far back as I could, just to see the nuances between us, like as a culture, not just black culture, but just as human beings. And I realized we all dealt with the same things, even in the 1800s. So we strip things down without technology. Again, we all have similar issues, whether it's with friendship, family, business. This is nothing new, right? So we all know how to manage it. How things changed for me and made me a little bit stronger at the end of it was, well, not at the end, but after a year. Again, just that development.
Yep.
I in 2017 or 2018. I always wanted to write a blog, and I had it written out. Have the whole thing mapped out on my computer, on my Mac, and I never took a look at it until like I accidentally opened up the app. And the idea of it was mental, physical, and financial health, right? So I always say, to be, who you need to be, you have to have these three things together to really be fully spiritually healthy.
Yep.
And so I realized that in 2021, I was waking up to $200,000 days, right? I was making that kind of money, but I was partying with that kind of money. I was too busy, going out, spending money on everybody else, taking care of the bill, whatever it may be, driving whatever. It didn't matter. I wasn't worried about the money, right? 2022 was when I decided to really take my physical health serious, right? And not to say that I didn't do it before, but during the pandemic, it wasn't as easy, and running was one of the things that got me through the pandemic. I would just leave the crib and go run about a mile, 2 miles. So physically, I got myself together. In 2022, 2023, I was making good money. Physically, I was good, and then this financial burden hit me, right? And I realized that I really never had good financial literacy. I only just knew how to make money. I didn't know how to manage money. I didn't know how to save money. I knew how to pay myself, but I didn't know how to manage it, right? I didn't know what I was doing when I had the money, if I'm really just being honest and reflecting on myself. So for me, I think if I just total up the last 3 years and just sum up everything from the last 3 years, and then this last year, 2024, I've been doing a lot of the work, pretty much been in therapy every week since the beginning of the year, and it's been all about my mental health this past year. And so in totality, I feel like what it's done is created a lot of self-reflection that I was ignoring or skipping. Not doing that kind of work, not doing the work to just mentally allow myself to be comfortable with me, right? I was letting other things determine who I was. Fitness-wise, it was, I think I got the best body. Aesthetically, I got a great body. Financially, it was, I was good. Everything else was okay, but mentally, I wasn't truly insecure, but I also wasn't truly as secure as I wanted to be or as I needed to be, because I still had so many things that held me back with my trauma. And I think that in the last year, I've learned to untether and untie those thoughts and those feelings and those negative thoughts that people have instilled in me to allow me to really just be me. And even this podcast, like I said, it's me stepping out of my comfort zone for sure. But like, I feel very, very comfortable doing it. Like, I don't feel uncomfortable because of the fact that I've been able to do the work. And so, like I said, it's been a journey of just preparing myself mentally. And I think that when you start a business, you learn very fast that you gotta do the personal development part.
Yep.
And I think that gets skipped, you know. And we aren't bred for business. Like, as Black people, we are just new to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You know, we were the cattle back in the day.
For
you
sure.
know, unfortunately.
For sure.
And so a lot of times we're trying to play a game that these people, they had since the 1500s. You know, like, this is their game. You know, we're trying to play it, but we don't have that same mentality. So, you know, one generation behind us might say, well, you can't do that. And you believe it because those are your leaders, right? And so we have to learn how to untie those thoughts, and even if they don't say it, you know, it's a feeling. That's why a lot of times they say, well, Black people don't support Black people. It takes a lot of personal strength to really get out there and be a good business, because you're going to get chopped down by all angles. You're going to get caught up by, you're going to get hit by people from all angles, and it's not our fault. It's just, we got to just keep growing the generation to be stronger and stronger and stronger, and hopefully in 100 years, there's no more of that stereotype of Black people not being able to do good business.
For sure. And I believe personal development is business adjacent. So
100%.
You have to continue to work on your mindset. You have to continue to work on your skill set in order to be and show up as a good business person. That's just a reality.
Yeah.
And so it requires, I mean, the same as fitness. It requires work out of you every day. My belief is that if I can spend an hour and a half in the gym, I can also spend an hour and a half studying. And that's learning the language. That's also doing all the things that are necessary for me to be successful in business. And I know you're the founder, Fit Factor X, and you talked about what you went through in terms of developing your business mindset and the imposter syndrome that maybe came along with that, at least at some point in your journey. Can you share with me how you were able to overcome that, or how you're overcoming that right now?
You know, again, it comes in the compliments. You know, if I have one client, which, you know, my first client, or even just whenever I get a client, or however, you have a client that says, yo, Mike, I thank you so much for what you've done for me.
Yep.
Right? We have to learn how to build on those blocks right there. Right? It could be a million negative comments. I don't give a damn if somebody was decided to write a whole essay about me. That one comment that says, yo, I thank you so much for, you know, what you've been able to do for me. My body has changed, my mindset has changed, how I am, who I am has really changed. When those are the things that help get rid of the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? Is knowing that you're not an imposter. You're really helping somebody.
Yep.
You're really helping people. You're really changing people's lives. You're really making a difference in someone's lives, whether it's 1, 2, 10, right? You have to really take those personal. You have to take the compliments personal. You have to use it in your meditation.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, when we meditate, we might think about the negative things. You know, one day I was meditating and I kept thinking about negative things. I kept thinking about the bad things people were saying about me or whatever it was. And then one day I just said, well, why don't I remember the compliments? And I said to myself, well, I need to start thinking about the compliments that people have given me, right? So I started thinking about times that people would just say, yo, I love spending time with you. Yo, you know, nice shoes, little things. It don't matter what it was. I just kept in my mind, I kept saying, damn, okay. People have, you know, there are people that just give you compliments just as much as there are people that hate on you, right? Or that have something negative to say. And so for me, it's really just taking those compliments, it's taking those you know, those good positive reviews and just building on it, you know. And I think that can help anybody get through any kind of imposter syndrome. It's just that one, it could be the simplest compliment, you know. I love the way you speak. Hey, you know, and it gives you confidence to continue to speak. Yep. You know, so that's, for me, that's been my biggest tool, is really just using those compliments in my favor.
So I have a invasive question for you.
Okay.
If you're against answering it, it's all good.
I'll plead the fifth.
So, thinking of reviews, testimonials, you know, obviously you get clients who want like that information. However, thinking about where you were last year, what's the review Mike would write about himself?
Of last year or of right now?
Of right now, from where you were last year, what's the review Mike would write about himself?
If I had to write a review for myself, I would self-admit and say that I had a little bit of desperate energy. seeking. I was searching. I was vulnerable. I wasn't my full self because I needed help, but I didn't know how to ask for it explicitly. So I was looking for it in opportunities, right? I was looking for it in trying to find a way to be an asset, but in departments that may have not fit me.
Yeah.
And so I'd say I was definitely a little bit more vulnerable than I should have been. I was in need. I was seeking, and desperate energy is never good.
Yep.
You never want to be that guy.
Yep.
You know. And so I had these. I was that guy without realizing that I was that guy. You know. I didn't feel comfortable. I felt like something was crumbling in my world, and I couldn't get a grip on it because I decided to put all my eggs in one basket. You know. So I'm looking for help because now I'm struggling to find a job, and I haven't had a job since October 2020.
Yeah.
And so I've always, again, a lot of that, you become almost like a little Superman in your mind, right? You become a little Megatron, and it becomes intimidating to a lot of people because even when you are in need, you may not even come off as weak.
Yep.
Right? I may be in need, but then people are like, oh, you're just fine. No, I'm not.
Right.
So I'm
right.
Right. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I'm struggling, you know. But like, there was a disconnect in there because of the fact that my shoulders do stand tall, and I do move in a way where if I'm walking around, you're not gonna be able to tell I'm having the bad. You know, you could maybe tell I'm having a bad day, but you're not gonna be able to tell like things are not going well in the back, you know,
Yep.
in the back office. The house is on fire. You know, you don't know that.
Yep.
And so when I am looking for for advice or assistance, it was always kind of reversed on me. It was like, oh, well, you're going to be okay, or you can figure it out. Like, and I knew I would be able to figure it out, but I just wanted to be that person that I was for so many people. And I was wishing to see that from a lot of people, and I never got it. And
Yep.
I had to take that and just understand that nobody's gonna be, we're not the same. Nobody is the same, and you just gotta keep moving in your strength, and you'll keep attaching with the right people. So the review I would say is that I was a little down and out on my luck. He was a little down and out on his luck, and he was moving a little bit of a lower vibration. That he should have been moving in, but you know, he deserved better. He deserved to go through it because, you know, I was in such a low space that I was never intimidated by people who were doing well ever because I just never felt out of reach. But I was dwelling with people that weren't doing well. You know, it was the low hanging satisfaction, you know, the partying a little bit, just to coping where it was nobody was driving me to get out of my comfort zone. Nobody was driving me to do better, and it just kind of sucked for a while. And but I needed to see these things. I needed to understand that, like, yo, these people exist, you know, and there are people that they tell you you don't want to put yourself in that position. It's gonna drive you backwards. And so, you know, I don't see myself as better than, you know, we all have our vices, we all have our, you know, but again, there was just a little bit of me that was just not living up to my full potential. Almost because I was a little bit scared to do it. And again, there was just too much trauma that was attached to me that I just didn't do the work for it. And it got me. It took me.
I mean, I think the reality is, you know, where you came from. So it's, to me, what I tell people, and I've written this several times, is that desperation is when you don't trust the outcome. And so the universe will respond in kind. Because what you're saying is, through that worry is belief of things that your worry is you praying for things that you don't want. Right. And so desperation is you don't believe in the outcome, so I'm not going to give you the outcome. And so what I had to train myself on how to do is detach from the outcome.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of years of sales training in order to help me be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I had to take that same application and apply it to my life.
Yeah.
So last question for you is, somebody is sitting right now in this year, 2024, where you were July of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one piece of advice you want to give them?
Man. You know, just to briefly touch on the thing you just mentioned, right? If we think back to the beginning of the conversation, and I talk about how the awards that I received, and I never ever attached myself to the outcome of the award, but I always just focused on the actual progress that I made each week at each meet or whatever it was. The same applies, right? That was when I was at my happiest, at the best. You know, it was when I was just focused on the process. And whether I was, you know, having a coach through the process was a major factor, right? Having a team was a major factor. I think that those are the things that matter sometimes, is finding the right people to surround yourself with, right? If you can find one person to help you, to lead you, even if it's, you know, again, we consume ourselves with so many things, right? We got to worry about eating. We got to worry about sleeping. As one singular person, we have to worry about so many different things.
Yep.
And so having a coach, having somebody to mentor you, is life-changing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then on top of that, having a team, right? If you can find someone who can bring together the ideas that you have in your head and let them be that specialist in your world, and just like, you know, you have your team here to help you set this up.
Yep.
It takes a team to develop something that is valuable. And so I think having a coach, having a team, and having a purpose is just something that I would love to advise people on. But if that's something that you don't feel like you can truly accomplish, I would just say take a step back, and you know, just understand you.
Yeah.
Right. Understand your emotions. Understand what drives you, what makes you sad, you know, what makes you happy. Every emotion you can think of, up, you know, through the spectrum. Find what what makes you tick, and reframe it and understand it, and revisit it, and then lead in love. Right. Find whatever you love. Go do it. You know, if it's like, yo, your friends want to go partying, but you love to sleep and read.
Go sleep and read.
Go sleep and read. You know, like, go home and sleep and read.
Yeah.
Like, and I guarantee you'll find yourself so much happier.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the separation between energies, right?
Yep.
It's the desperation energy and the more relaxed energy of what you like to do, what you love, right? So I think finding what you love, and don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about what anybody else has to say about it. Don't worry about who. Just go with what you love, enjoy it, and just keep moving in love. Honestly, I think that's really the key, is just keep moving in love. And again, you'll find your happiness if you do that. But stay away from desperation.
Absolutely.
That's the key. So.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate you too.
Definitely a wonderful conversation, as I say to these people every week. But before I get to that, I'm about to skip out on something real quick. Before I get to that, how can people find you and what you're working on?
Yeah, right now I'm still in a little incubation mode. I might post a little fun stuff here and there.
Yep.
But I think the reality is that this was one of the first things that really pushed me outside of, you know, where I want to be going. And so, I mean, my regular Instagram is _Mike Strong. You know, follow me or not, it's okay. It's really personal in there, so it's not.
Yeah.
It ain't like most people. They're like, "Yo, my Instagram is strictly business."
Yeah.
My Instagram is just about me.
Yeah.
It really is just. It's just me having fun. Again, I created my business, you know, Fit Factor X, with a very ambiguous name on purpose. You know, I like to attract people that just need me. You know, I don't want people to just kind of be, oh, you know, if they know me, then cool. I love to help. But, you know, the idea is that you don't know the owner of, well, you probably do know the owner of Nike, but you don't know the owner of a lot of these brands.
Yeah.
Road, you know, but I want my brand to speak for itself, you know. And so overall, it's just I'm just me. I just want people to I just want people to know me for me. And I'm gonna continue to grow that brand and authentically just grow as me. So if you see me on Instagram, follow, say what's up, do what you gotta do. But yeah, it's just Instagram for now. So
I love it. I love it. My guy, I appreciate it again, bro.
Yeah.
Definitely a great conversation with you. I think there's a lot of takeaways for people, but I think, beyond that, the reality is there's so much stuff for us to accomplish. There's so much for us to do. And for me, discipline leads the charge on that. Being who you are in fitness, understanding personal development, meditation. You gotta sit and you gotta fight this idea of wanting to get up. You gotta fight all of that. But what I say every week is discipline equals freedom. And while manhood may look different for everyone, the core values of authenticity, integrity, and resilience remain universal. We are the disciplined man, and this is what real men think. Appreciate you joining. Mike, appreciate it again, bro.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.